Well, welcome to you all. This is another of our Black History conversations in our Windrush series. I'm Liz Millman from Learning Links International, and I'm joined by other colleagues who are involved with Learning Links International. Simon Ferringo does all the IT stuff, and he's organising the recording. We've got Garrick Prayog, who's the chair of the North Wales Jamaica Society and as well a founder of Justice for Windrush Generations. And especially today, we've got June Elizabeth Whitesmith Gully, who's an international Windrush ambassador and has got so many other titles that I'll leave her to introduce herself in a moment. So I'm Liz Millman from Learning Links International, and usually I'm introducing this session from Australia, but today I'm not. Where am I? I'm in Wednesbury in the West Midlands in the UK. Having flown in a couple of days ago from Australia. So if I'm a bit confused this time, my excuse this time is jet lag. Usually it's because I'm in the middle of the night. Okay then, folks. Well, I'm just going to start with an introduction to our session, if that's all right. Just get the right PowerPoint up. Because Black History Conversations is, all right, okay, then just this recording, okay. I'm just getting straight here. Okay, then, so we, on behalf of Black History Conversations, we acknowledge the injustice of the actions taken by the British and other European countries that invaded and took possession of the islands in the Caribbean Sea, as well as the continents of North and South America. In addition, we also recognise the exploitation of the great continents of Africa, Asia, Australia, and many other parts of the world in the centuries of colonialisation and ongoing exploitation. We acknowledge that this has resulted in the destruction and destabilisation of so many nations, peoples, and cultures. So we're here with looking at Black history, African history, European colonial history, as well as the histories of the indigenous peoples, and of course our shared history. So this decade, the past 10 years, has been the International Decade for the People of African Descent, United Nations International Decade. And during the next months, as we get to the end of the year, we're going to be finding out more about what's actually happened during this decade and what the plans are for the future for recognition, justice, and development. Now, as I said, this is part of our Windrush series, and we started off with Rudy Page, who's Jamaican, travels between Jamaica and the UK, and he was very active last year on the Windrush activities that were celebrated in Jamaica. And we're hearing that next year in Jamaica at the waterfront in Kingston, there's going to be a replica of the memorial that was unveiled at Waterloo Station. So that'll be a really important recognition. As I said, sometimes we seem to be a bit Jamaican focused, but just have to accept that. Okay. It's because we do a lot of other things, links and work with Jamaica. Right, so then we had a delightful session with Jamaican teachers joining us for a conversation to tell us about their experience. And then the following week, we had Bill Hearn, who's written the e-book, which is on the Windrush National Organisation site, I think. He wrote with Arthur Torrington, and that records the stories. It's not got all the way through the stories of all the people who were actually on the Empire Windrush, but that was a fantastic opportunity to hear more stories from Bill. He's joined us on a number of occasions over these last few years. And we also had Levi Lawrence, a friend of mine who lives in Australia. He's Jamaican, but he's back in the UK now. And we didn't get Neil Lawrence. We got Levi's sister, Olette, I think her name was, because their dad was on the Windrush and they recall the stories of their father. Last week, Garrick Prayog joined us, and I'll just show you a little bit about that, to talk about the issues with the Windrush compensation, as it's called, and the fact that really there are 65 Commonwealth countries, and as well as over British overseas territories, that need are eligible should they have been disadvantaged by the Home Office scandal. That was absolutely fascinating. Then this week we've got nurses from the Caribbean, which is just a great subject. Next week, as I was mentioning before we started, we're actually going to be a kind of roadshow, take Black History Conversations to the fire station in Rhyl, North Wales. Now, this might sound a bit of a surprise, but the fire station in Rhyl, North Wales decided they wanted to do something for Windrush this year. And so they're putting on a Windrush Day. We've got some great Jamaican catering going on. But we're also, we'll be welcoming through Black History Conversations. So we'll be doing a combined in person and also online with Winita Cox, who's Dr. Winita Cox, who's done some fantastic research into the stories of people who've been involved in the Home Office, well, from the point of view of the community who've been disadvantaged by the actions of the Home Office. So that's good. And then we're going to move into other things for our last three sessions. So we don't normally plan so far in advance. We're a bit spontaneous, but it's always interesting. So we're welcoming Charmaine coming in now. That's wonderful. Charmaine's arriving. So Daniel Johnson, a young man who's got fantastic skills, is going to join us to talk about transferable life skills through Black music. So thank you very much, June Elizabeth Whitesmith Gully, for organising that session as well. It's really kind of you. Now, last week we had Garrick talking to us, I've introduced, to talk about the fact that Windrush is a global issue. Garrick, I'm just going to give you a moment if you would just want to quickly talk about this important issue so that other people spread the word, to say that, you know, there are many other places around the globe, not just the Caribbean, where there are people who've been affected.
Yeah, absolutely. Often it is the case that the public make a lot of assumption based on what they see with the original generation coming off the ship in Tilbury. They only see Black people, and they only see people from the Caribbean. So automatically, in their minds, Windrush is a Caribbean issue. And what we're trying to do is to change that narrative, to make sure people understand that Windrush is global. So apart from the 54 Commonwealth countries, is also the overseas territories, bringing it to 65 countries. So that will include people from Asia and people from across Africa. And when we're having conversation about Windrush, we need to be having these conversations that Windrush is not restricted to Caribbean people. A lot of Africans and Asian don't identify as part of that generation, for the simple reason that they would say they didn't arrive on the Windrush ship. And the emphasis is it doesn't matter how you arrive in the UK. The most important thing is dates. When did you arrive? Did you arrive before 1973 from a Commonwealth country, or did you arrive from any other country by 31st of December 1988? And we also mentioned that EU national has benefited from the Windrush scheme. They have used the scheme to rectify their status after Brexit. And in fact, more European have benefited from the scheme than Caribbean or Jamaican. If you look at the Home Office figure, you will see only just over 3,000 Jamaican who have actually applied to the scheme, and there's 4,500 European who have applied to this scheme. So it just shows you that the scheme is international, and we need to make sure we have those conversations with colleagues, whether we're first, second, third, or fourth. I did make the point that I'm second generation. We're now moving into fifth generation, and many people were born in the UK who don't believe that they have anything to do with Windrush. To their surprise, when they apply for a passport and it's refused, and they don't know why, because they don't understand about what would have happened to their parent and grandparent who did not rectify their status.
Garrick, thank you so much. And as you know, with both your support and the support of June Elizabeth Whitesmith Gully, we've been able to, on an ongoing basis, explore the issues related to this horrendous scandal, and to be able to share that as best we can. And it's my great honour that I've been able to work with both of you. So it's lovely that we've got such a great range of people here, because now we're going to pass on to the session really for today, acknowledging what you've contributed, Garrick, very, very valuable indeed. And we've been joined by Charmaine Case. Charmaine, that's lovely. I'm Liz Millman from Learning Links International. It's lovely to see you. Clover's joined us as well. Ivor's joined us. Ivor's based in Pennants, Jamaica. He's part of our Pennants project, which is a reparation project with the community. So welcome to you. And we have with us as well, just so that you all know, Dr. Vivian Crawford, who is who has recently retired, relatively recently retired now, as the Executive Director of the Institute of Jamaica. So thank you for your presence today, Vivian. But I'm going to hand over now to you, June Elizabeth, and you're going to chair the rest of the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Liz. Welcome, everyone. And I'm just going to also welcome Rose Johnson, who is a member of our team. She's a Jamaican retired teacher that came on board, I think, the end of last year. She wrote a couple of books, but she'll tell you herself one day. And one involved my husband, Sir Cliff's sister. That's how we got connected, and I brought her on board to Black History. I just want to prepare two people, and one is Dr. Vivian. When I ask, if you could just start us off with a little prayer, and then when we end, our two speakers, Alina Wallace, who is Executive Treasurer for Nurses Association of Jamaica, UK, and Sherill Gregory, who is Executive Secretary, they will be the speakers today, but then everybody else will have an opportunity to have a conversation. We're quite orderly. It is informal, but the main speakers will be Sherill and Alina, who's also known as Annette, in case somebody refers to her as Annette in the programme, you know who it is. And then, you know, in NAJ, there's so much talent. So I did ask our president, but she's a bit busy, who's just joined us now. That's Charmaine Case. She's the president. And as I mentioned before, Paulette Lewis, MBE, is the public relation officer, former president of NAJ, but the president of the Caribbean Nurses Association and Midwives. So Charmaine Case is also the secretary for the Mary Seacole Memorial Association, and Clover Brown, who's joined us, she's the chair for the Mary Seacole. So Welcome to all the NAJ that have come onto the platform. I'm going to just call your name: Dahlia Sterling, Lorna Grant, Sherill, I've mentioned Alina and Charmaine and Paulette. So if anybody comes on later on, we'll welcome them if they're a bit late coming on. So at the end, we will have an extra 5 minutes, and a poem was commissioned by a Jamaican poet that many of you will know because she's been on the NAJ platform, Doreen Mackenzie. She sent it fresh off the press yesterday, and one of our NAJ poets, that is Sherill Gregory, she does a lot of things. She will read it for us at the end. So we will start with a prayer. Dr. Vivian, are you ready? Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you very much, June Elizabeth. And I pray the prayer that was left on the moon by one of the astronauts, Aldrin. And that prayer was written by James Dillett Freeman. James Dillett Freeman has visited Jamaica, and I have shared with the group. You can Google prayer of protection. So I now pray the prayer of protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Gracious God, yours is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Dr. Vivian. So without further ado, Sherill and Alina, the floor is yours. Hello, Sherill. Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Liz?
And it is on, and it is on silent.
Unmute yourselves.
Alina and Sherill, you're on mute. Could you unmute yourselves, please?
Thank you, Charmaine.
That's great, Sherill. Now get your picture back on.
How do I do that?
Can you hear me now then?
Okay, yes, Alina.
And Sherill will get the picture back on.
Right. Well, I'm Alina Wallace. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure being here today among friends, talking about issues dearest to our hearts. Thanks for Liz Millman for inviting us, and to you, June Elizabeth, for linking us up and making it happen today. Sherill, do you want to say anything? I don't know.
Yes, to detail what you've said, and also to thank Liz and her other colleagues who have started this this group, particularly looking at the disparities of that goes way back to slavery. You know, so many people try to take this on, but your group seems so caring and genuine and approaching it so sensitively, and I really admire and thank you for this.
Okay. Now, June, what we were relying on you to lead us, tell us what next you want us to do, or resume, or what?
Yes, I'd like you to introduce yourself, tell us about your background and how you are here.
All right.
How come you're part of NAJ?
All right. Okay. Well, I'll start, Sherill, if you don't mind.
No, that's fine.
Okay. Well, as I said, I'm Alina Wallace. I'm a retired senior nurse from the NHS since 28. Having spent over 30 years in the NHS, I gained extensive experience in clinical, management, and educational sectors of nursing. I specialize in critical care nursing, practice, led, and managed the service as senior nurse for critical care division. I was headhunted to be assistant director of nursing, then later director of nursing at Kingston Hospital. Kingston in Surrey, that is. This is where I hit the glass ceiling set for many BME nurses, as we all know. It proved very hard to crack. So I took a lateral move into education as senior lecturer in clinical skills at Kingston University, teaching and supporting pre and post registration nurses. The role was very fulfilling as I felt I was able to pass on my knowledge and skills to trainee nurses who were to be the future of nursing. Since my retirement, I commit my time and energy to be part of NAJ, a wonderful charity. NAJ abbreviation for Nurses Association of Jamaica, UK. It is a non-profit charity formed 46 years ago. It supports BME nurses recruited to UK or our BME communities nationally and internationally through fundraising activities. Since being at NAJ, I filled various roles as education officer, secretary, and president. And at the moment, I am a trustee and executive treasurer. I think I'll stop there.
Thank you very much, Alina. I'm going to ask Sherill to give an introduction, and then we'll open up the floor if anybody wants to ask you any questions, and then we'll have a conversation around everything else. Okay? Thank you very much.
Yes, I'm Sherill Gregory, and I'm very proud to say that I'm a product of Clarendon. So this project has special interest to me. I came to the UK more than 60 years ago to join my parents. And after finishing school here, I went on to do my state registered nurse. Very few at that time of nurses from the Caribbean were permitted on that course. And from then I went on to be a midwife, health visitor, and I ended my career in specializing in sickle cell and thalassemia, also managing the service. Throughout my working life, I've always volunteered. I have chaired a mental health project. I have also chaired a sickle cell support group. So it wasn't strange when I was invited to join the Nurses Association of Jamaica, UK, to join, and very active and being very active in that. I've been branch secretary, deputy branch chair, and I'm now the executive secretary and the trustee. I found it so absolutely rewarding to be giving something back, not only to the community here, but to Jamaica, which I hold very dearly, because it is because of the grounding that I had there that has made me into who I am today. And I think that's all what I will say right now.
Thank you very, very much. Just before I open the floor for other people to asked a couple of questions. I'll just introduce myself very briefly. I'm June Elizabeth White-Smith-Gully, and I'm a member of NAJ and a member of the Mary Seacon. Now, how I got to be a member of the NAJ was when they were unveiling the Mary Seacon statue at St Thomas's Hospital. And that's a hospital that I trained at. In fact, where I lived in the nursing home is now a pain clinic. And that's where the garden of Mary Seacon is in front of that. But I was on the bus and I sometimes dress in Jamaican colours. And I sat next to this lady and she said to me, I know where you're going. And that lady's name, they call her June, but her name is Pearline Simmons. And she is part of the NAJ. I'm not sure if she's the chair,
Yeah, she's the chair of the branch.
Right, because she takes a lot of roles on that sometimes I'm not sure what she is. So that's how come I met her on the way. And then when I got there, I started talking to this lovely lady named Joy Parasing. She's got a name there like you, Gary, right? And then from there, she's a membership secretary. I became a member and I really love being part of NAJ. I'm only sorry that I can't be as active as I'd like to be due to circumstances and living in Northampton. I just want to close by saying the Nurses Association of Jamaica has 2 branches. There's a branch in Birmingham as well as this branch in London that I belong to. And most of these ladies are from the London branch. Okay, then. I'm going to invite the chair, the president of NAJ to say a couple of words, and then the president of the Nurses Association, Caribbean Nurses and Midwives. So if Charmaine will say a couple of words, and if Paulette would like to say a couple of words, and then if anybody wants to ask the speakers any questions, because I've got a question for both of them, then we can go from there. Okay, then Charmaine, would you like to say a couple of words as the president?
As the president, I would like to say thank you very much for inviting us to this forum. I am the president and I've been the president for a good couple of years now. I took over from Paulette, a great legacy. Our founder member, one of our founder members, Dorothy, introduced me to NAJ in the 80s. And we've been going strong since then. So I'm very happy to be on this platform and thank you very much for the invite. And NAJ is going strong. We are one of the eldest International Nurses Association. There are now 36 nurses associations. No, 36.
No, I thought you were saying years.
No, we've been going for 46 years, but 36 international nurses associations, which grew a lot straight after COVID, actually, where people wanted to belong and have the support. So, and we found that when we started back in the 70s, it was to support the girls who had come over from Jamaica, settle in and have the support and have the mentor and coaching to get through their career. And that is still relevant today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charmaine. This wasn't arranged, but that's part of the conversation, you see. So, Miss Paulette Lewis, MBE, can you come in, please?
Oh, hello, good afternoon, and thank you for asking me to speak this afternoon. I just came to listen, but it's a privilege. As Elizabeth said before, I was the previous president for about 14 years of the Nurses Association of Jamaica and helped in making a sustainable organization. Handed over to Charmaine 2018. I'm still a trustee and part of the NAJ UK as a public relation officer. And I do a lot of work with a committee like Sherill and others around fundraising for the organization. My role as another charity, I'm also the chair of the BME Forum that does a lot of work around community inequalities, all the things that we're talking about here today. And that has been very rewarding in working with our communities. But also I'm the president, as you heard, for the Caribbean Nurses and Midwives Association. That was formed in about 2020, just after COVID. And the reason that was formed, actually, being a Jamaican, I'm very committed to Jamaica and very committed to being a member of the Nurses Association of Jamaica, UK. But what we found out, 4 of us were approached to say many of the Caribbean islands did not have, like Jamaica, which was a well-established organization and was a forerunner in terms of what they had done over 46 years ago. So we were approached from people from St. Lucia, Dominica, Trinidad, and so forth, the smaller islands, that they didn't have an association. And could we help to do that? So on the back of what was happening, COVID, the Floyd situation in quality of health, hearing what was happening with international nurses, 4 of us came together and decided we would form a Caribbean, not excluding that we didn't think people should have their own organization, but this was something that which we found for those, especially unlike Jamaica, did not have that grounding. And we said we wanted to be the voice of the Caribbean in terms of representing the Caribbean as a whole and working still with different organizations. Doesn't mean you don't have your small organization, especially to support those people who weren't as fortunate as the Jamaican Nurses Association, the Guyanese Nurses Association, and the Barbadian. Those are the 3 who were more established. But as Charmaine said, on the back of that, with international recruits, we now have 36 international nurses organizations doing exactly what I would say proudly NAG and its founder member, Dorothy Turner, isn't here, set up years ago, was starting to look after nurses when they came to this country. So apart from doing that, we do a lot of other things, but it's just to say that we want to work collaboratively. We do a lot of work across the Caribbean, in the country, in terms of supporting not only Jamaicans, but all Caribbean nurses in that role that I play, although I still, to make sure that collaboration and working and supporting our brothers and sisters across the Caribbean is vital if we're going to have a sustainable future from a global perspective. And I think that's where we were looking at that from that point of view. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paulette. Thank you very much. And I'd just like now to open the floor, and I will start with a question to Sherill. I have an idea what you meant when you said that there weren't many nurses offered the SRN in the olden days. Could you kind of elaborate on that for some of us that don't really understand what that was about, please? Is Sherill there?
She's on mute.
Hello, Sherill. Can you unmute? Did you hear my question? Okay. Well, can I put that? Can she not hear me?
She's still on mute, actually.
Okay. Charmaine, can you get her off mute?
I think she's on her own device, so it might be difficult for Charmaine to get her off.
I've unmuted. It should be on mute now.
Okay,
It's
right.
come up. Can you hear me now?
Yes, did you hear my question?
Yes, I did.
Oh, lovely.
The SCN, the State Enrolled Nurse, it's a 2-year course. And because the nurses from the Caribbean, they're usually very well educated, high school graduates, but for some reason, when they came here, they were not considered suitable for that, to do their state registered nurse training. And they also thought, because it was 2 years, they would have completed it quicker so they could return home. But the reality was, once they qualified, they realized that it would not be acceptable in their original countries, because it was a practical nursing training. So it was a great disadvantage and disrespect, really, for the education system in the Caribbean and other colonized countries.
Thank you very much for that. So, if anybody would like to ask Sherill a question or Alina a question from their presentation, could you raise your physical or digital hand, please? Garrick, if you see a hand and I can't see it, will you call the name for me, please? Or if you just unmute yourself and...
Yeah, so let me take Dr. Crawford before myself. I do have a couple of points, but
Thank you
if I
very
ask
much.
Dr. Crawford to come
Oh
in.
no, Garrick, I yield to you. Oh, I yield to you. Please.
Blessing, bless you, bless you.
I was also trying to say, to add a bit to what Sherill had said about the enrolled nurses.
Yes.
Because that was really quite, it was more like a deception and an exploitation of Caribbean nurses. Because as Sherill said, there were many in very good jobs before they actually came here. Teachers, librarians, clerks of courts and all that. And they came here to be trained as a nurse. And sometimes it took them over 4 years to be even allowed into nurse training.
Wow.
And then when they eventually they were tricked into this 2-year course, as Sherill talked about, the SEN program. And in fact, it was a 2nd-tier course as opposed to the 3-year SRN course. And it wasn't recognized in the Caribbean and many other countries, America and Canada and other places it was. So also the other point is that some of the people who came to do nursing, they were directed to small specialized hospitals like TB hospitals, infectious hospitals, and mental institutes, which is not what they had come for initially. And obviously, it led to a lot of disappointment, a lot of hurt. And I actually met quite a few of these nurses who actually, they were so disgusted, they just went back home, you know. And then later on, when those who stayed and qualified as SEN, then later on, there was a double whammy when it came to agenda of change, where would they fit in the pay scale? And eventually the SEN were downgraded completely, and they had to then take a course to become SRNs or registered nurses. So it had been a very, very painful journey for those nurses, those people who came to do nurse training in those days.
Thank you, Alina and Sherill, for answering that question. So that question, there was a reason why I asked it, and you gave the answers to enlighten the people of the slavery within the nursing profession, exactly. You know, and I just leave that like that. So, Garrick, have you got a question?
Yes, just before I raise my point, can I just ask Rose to come in, because she may have something directly related to what she's just heard. And then I know Dr. Vivian has asked me, but I would like to hear Dr. Vivian before I come in. I have quite a bit to say for all 3 of our speakers. So Rose and Dr. Vivian, please.
Right, well, my mother was a nurse. 2 of my sisters were nurses. And only one of the 3 became SRN. as a teenager, and I'm the 9th in my family, and my second sister, my first and second sisters, much older than myself, were nurses, and only one of them. I remember a conversation. I must have been about, I don't know, 14 probably, where my elder sister, who had been to UWI, right, had already had a university education in Jamaica. She had then started her training at Mona, yes, for Dr. Vivian and others at Mona, the hospital there. And then she came over to the UK and thought she could go straight into her training to become, but no, that was not to be. So, and I do remember the anger that she expressed. And I remember looking at her in awe, you know, when you're a sort of mid-teen person, your older sister's arrived and, you know, she's ready to go, an ambitious person. And I fully appreciated you know, hearing her expression of rage. And she did get there and she got her SRN and she went to live in the States and she did extremely well in nursing there. But my mother and my eldest sister did not go beyond SE, the state enrolled nursing qualification. So that's one point. So I've sort of lived it, look, in my family, I've seen it. But my second point, it was Alina, I think, that made me think about it in particular, but Cheryl's comments as well. And that was, to what extent, and it's also a broader NAJ and Caribbean Nurses Association issue, to what extent are you in Kingston, or did you in Kingston, liaise with the other nursing education establishment, like the University of West London, for example, you know, where there were Black nurses being trained, or people training to become nurses or doing courses within that field? I just wondered, is there any sort of discussion across the organizations which itself could actually support those nurses in training to become part of NAJ or the Caribbean Nurses Association? Sorry, I hope you get the points I'm making there. Anybody really?
Yeah, would Paulette Lewis, would you like to answer that as well? Would you like to start the answer for that?
I'm just going back, my knowledge around the support for our Caribbean or Jamaicans being training here is that there were organizations and people within organizations that were supporting those nurses who were being converted from SENs to SRNs, or generally helping them. So I can remember clearly when I was director of maternity services and I went into a hospital, most of the nurses within some of the departments were SEN. And I worked very closely with them and had one-to-one, because one of the things was about discrimination, not being given opportunities. So one of the things was to change the culture and behavior of that, having the opportunity as a Black woman in that space. And I really worked very hard at the time. I wasn't a chief nurse then, with the education department, to say we have so many Black and nurses who have been here for so many years and they've not had the opportunity. A number of them wanted to be converted. And so we worked with them. And by the time I left that hospital, we had nearly 75% of them who were trained and went on to become SRNs. But it did take a stamina and a willingness and not giving up to work with the organizations because they were being held back. But I think Annette and Sherill will come in, but I think NAJ, because it was around from 1976, 1978, I think a number of them, like people like Dorothy, Lirel, a number of people were already working with a lot of Jamaican nurses who were here, because they were like, you know, the epitome of setting up this organization to support nurses. But there were other nurses who weren't getting that support as the Jamaican nurses. And that's one of the reasons why people came to us and say, can we have a Caribbean nurses where you, as the big ones, they would say Jamaica, they really set the pinnacle here. Can we help them to be like a Jamaican Nurses Association? So they were getting that. But I think the point that the ladies made about SENs is that when I first came here, I've ended up being a chief nurse and all sorts of stuff. It was about determination. It was about people believing in yourself. It was about who did you meet? And I can say, and I think having good allyship is very important, because the reason I was transferred is because a white man saw me, he's read my papers, he said, what are you doing in this group? I said, well, I want to go back home. I was engaged, going to get married. He says, you're far too intelligent, you're in the wrong group. We need to move you out of here. This is how I ended up doing my SRN back in London. So allyship, and there are good people out there sometimes who will identify people for their knowledge and their understanding. So I think, as you both say, that was a disadvantage, a very big disadvantage to very many of our Caribbean Jamaican nurses who came up here. But I'll let my other colleagues pick that up.
Thank you, Paulette. Thank you very much. So Sherill and Alina.
Sherill is on. Sherill, you're on mute.
What about Alina?
Alina is on mute as well. Alina, you're on mute. You're both on mute.
To continue the conversation about the enrolled nurses? Well, as one of the things I can say about, for example, the immigration of nurses, well, not even nurses, immigration of African Caribbean people to here in the UK. We, as you all know, the history going way back to the First World War, and it actually peaked in 1948 when after the Second World War, many Jamaicans were brought to Britain and stayed to help rebuild the economy, including the health service. And in 48, the Health and Labor Ministries joined with the nursing regulatory bodies and instigated active recruitment drives in the Caribbean. Jamaica in particular had various drives and various considerations for nurses coming here for training. And by 1955, there were official recruitment programs right across 16 of the colonies, including the Caribbeans. And by 1965, there were about 5,000 Jamaican nurses working in the NHS. All right. Now, this, due to the shortage of labor force, many Jamaicans responded to the drive for coming to help our so-called mother country. And we, especially since many countries in the Caribbean started getting independence, it was seen that they started changing the immigration rules. And although, as we know, many came over as British subjects on the Windrush ship, they had real difficulties as they changed the laws. However, up to 1969, many Jamaican personnel were encouraged through recruitment campaigns to immigrate to the UK in working the NHS. Some came through sponsorships, others independently, privately, to relatives who were living here. Some had to pay their fares. Some had loans, which had to be paid back weekly. And others had government scholarships, like myself, of which I'm a product of the scholarship scheme in 1967 to 1970. Myself and 3 other Jamaican students came here as trainee nurses And this is where we met other Caribbean nurses who most of them came independently. They were misinformed, as we said before. And we found our own support system. As we know, we are always resilient in making sure that we support each other and we get on. So that is something that I'll always say.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Alina. And Sherill, before we go to Dr. Vivian, did you want to say anything, add anything, Sherill?
She's on mute. How dare you? She's not hearing you, June.
Okay.
June Elizabeth, can I just pop in there?
Sure, you can do.
SEN.
Yes.
So I was at Croydon when the conversion came through, and I can say there were still problems with Black enrolled nurses getting on. So initially, the first few cohorts of the conversion course were class face-to-face, okay? And what I saw and what everyone else saw was that mainly the white enrolled nurses got the face-to-face ones or got the opportunity to go. And then when it was time for our Black colleagues to go, suddenly it was online. And distant, sorry, it wasn't online then, it's called distant learning.
Oh,
so
yes.
They swapped from face-to-face in a classroom, getting all the support, to distant learning. So that was a massive discouragement for the girls who usually were on nights looking after grandchildren and then not being able to have a class to concentrate on. So that was a disadvantage. And as Alina said about when it came to Agenda for Change, the girls who were enrolled nurses were getting paid on the old Whitley scale a D grade equivalent of. What most of the hospitals did was downgrade them back to a C grade, so they didn't get the proper pay. So they lost their pay, plus they couldn't get on the course to make them an SRN.
Yeah.
Another thing I'd like to say is also that when I, in '83, went for my nurse training, my mother is a beautiful woman, hard as nails, but she said to me, if they ask for your passport picture, do not apply to that hospital. And I can say practically every hospital in London in 1983 was expecting a passport picture and that you needed to have passed your A levels, which a lot of Black people hadn't. So I went to Canterbury to do my training because they didn't ask my passport picture and they said I could get in without my A levels. But there, interestingly, the Irish nurses were being told to be put on the EN course. Instead, we're saying, oh, we'll put you on the EN course and not the registered nurses course. And I was advocating for them. So it swings and roundabouts, may I say. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much, Charmaine. Boy, got a lot to write up later on. Sherill, do you want to quickly come in before I invite Dr. Vivian to ask this question?
I don't know what's happening because I've unmuted myself and I'm not getting on. I think I'm going to leave and come back in.
Okay then, Sherill, you do that.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me now.
Yes,
okay, well, my understanding of the question, I don't know if I misunderstood, was around supporting nurses training at the university hospitals. Up until I think it was about 2000, nurses were trained in hospitals rather than at universities. But we have tried so hard to get younger nurses to join the Nurses Association of Jamaica so we could give them support. And we've not been very successful. We've had sessions where people have got into problems and they'll contact us and will even pay their first year fee. But once we've helped, they have never retained their membership. The issue that is common, the common fault we've had is that they've got no connection with Jamaica. And initially, when the Nurses Association was formed, we all had the same common issues. We were immigrants, but the nurses now that are in training were most likely would have been born here. So they've assimilated into this culture and they're not connected to Jamaica. So they have no affiliation or that deep passion to care, because we also now not only support nurses here, but we do a lot of fundraising to support worthy causes in Jamaica.
Well, thank you very much, Sherill. I think, Rose, I think your question has been well answered. You'll have an opportunity a bit later. So could I invite Dr. Vivian Crawford to ask his question, please, and then Gareth.
Well, thank you very, very much, June Elizabeth. Dale says she's in Croydon. Who is in Croydon?
Dale.
That's
a lot. And Nurses Association of Jamaica is home base is Croydon, so a lot of us are in Croydon.
That's my home base too, you know.
Oh.
Yes.
We'll invite you to our annual general meeting in September to meet you.
Oh my God, yes. But Croydon is very, very dear to me. My sister is in Thornton Heath and my brother nearby. So I pass by on May Day Hospital to go to Croydon High Street, etc. But I hasten to say, for a program of this nature, and I express it every time, and I know Liz is going to kill me, but I have to say it, to thank God for identifying Liz to create this setting where we can meet and go along memory lane and history, because that is what is going to guide us to make planet Earth a better place. I heard in the discussion the word discrimination. I heard in the discussion the word disadvantage. I heard in the discussion the expression painful journey. And it was on this program, and this is why you cannot miss this program, ladies and gentlemen. If you miss it, we are sending you to the principal's office. And that's Dr. Rose. She's the principal. But Liz is Liz Millman Institute. You cannot miss it because it was on this program. I heard something which I now realize that prejudice guided the discussion we are hearing. That's what it was called the challenges. Because Alex Renton reminded us on this program in Blood Legacy that Europeans, in order to justify enslavement, said we were half animals and half human. And if such, what do you expect of an animal? Are you going to give an animal a needle to do an injection? No. And that is a prejudice that is in the subconscious of many of our decision makers. And I've shared on this program that I'm young enough to know that there was a time in Jamaica when there were only 2 Jamaicans who were principals of high schools. Indeed, Trelawney didn't have a high school for direct access to boys until in the 1970s, William Knibb. And among the graduates of that school, the world's great most outstanding runner, the fastest runner, Usain Bolt. And I'm saying this to say that prejudice, we are here to work out this prejudice. So I close by asking, while it's only 2005 in Jamaica, we were able to identify the space in Kingston where Mary Seco lived. It took us 6 months to do the research and to realize that the very spot one Miss Epi Edwards the deputy librarian at the National Library of Jamaica, the very spot from which she was doing the research, that is where Mary C. Cole was born, number 10 East Street. I'm saying this to say that unless we have institutions and organizations like the Liz Millman Institute, we are going to be behind. We are traveling, but we do not know where we are going. So I asked the nurses in particular, has anyone class ever heard about Cuba Cornwallis from Jamaica? Where you thought, oh, Julius, oh my God. I never miss an opportunity to speak about Cuba Cornwallis, perhaps Jamaica's most outstanding nurse apart from Mary C. Cole. But who the hell cares? Who knows about Cuba Cornwallis? And yet, you go to Trafalgar Square, and on Christmas Eve, you jump in the pool, and Nelson Column. But how many of us were ever taught that when Nelson returned from Nicaragua and came to Jamaica, he couldn't make the trip back to England. He was too sick. And Cuba Cornwallis in Port Royal nurtured, nursed him to perfect health. And Lord Nelson was so happy that when he returned to England, he shared this story with Britain's sailor prince, Prince William. And Prince William said, boy, I have to go out there and get some of that rub up. So Prince William came to Jamaica and Cuba Cornwallis gave him a rub up. That is the same Prince William who in 1834 signed the act for the abolition of slavery, the very man. And he stayed at number 12 East Street. That is now the Institute of Jamaica. It was called Daytree Hall. They didn't call it hotel those days. See how it is close. But Prince William, when he became king and married Queen Adelaide, Queen Adelaide, after whom a street in Spanish Town is named. When he told her the story, she sent for Cuba a gorgeous dress. Cuba said the dress was too beautiful to be worn. They must bury her in it. I'm saying all of this to say, we cannot, who have come here today, give up this meeting. If we can, we have to find our blouse and our skirts and our dresses and our shirts here every Friday. We have to go to school because this is how we learn about ourselves. I want to thank you for listening. God bless.
Thank you, Dr. Vivian. And those who came late, they missed the mango that he was selling today. Sometimes Dr.
I'll send it to them now.
He shows us a fruit and sometimes we try to guess it.
Tell him to catch it.
Thank you very much. So was there a question? You just wanted to know if they were aware of Cuba?
Yes, yes. I just wanted to know.
Yeah,
because
well, as
they
a black
must know
historian,
she saved, quote unquote, Lord Nelson.
Horatius Nelson,
Therefore, the Battle of Trafalgar would not have taken place.
Ah, there you go. Well, thank you for that presentation. I don't know if anybody else wanted to say something on top of that. I'm going to invite, I'm mindful of the time, I'm going to invite Garrick.
Yes, thank you very much, Elizabeth. And first of all, can I just say for the nurses that have contributed to this session, how enlightening and you know, informative to hear your experiences. Let me just add a few things to the conversation. My auntie was trained in Sheffield in the 60s. And my sister was trained in King's College. And for the 75th anniversary, which was last year, I did an article for the NHS around Caribbean nurses. And that was really to highlight the contribution of our nurses, not just the Caribbean, can I say, and Liz, you know, we have to extend to our Nigerian, our Ghanaian, and our Kenyan, and our Indian nurses across the Commonwealth. And that article was really to highlight the contribution of people of the Windrush generation and descendants to the National Health Service. And I notice in the comments that's been made about your lived experience as nurses, as professional, the issue I raise also in the article was when nurses arrive from Jamaica particular, with their qualification, and it's been said, they could not use that qualification immediately. They had to be retrained. And being retrained mean they got to start well below and then work their way up. And even when they worked their way up, they couldn't get the promotion in comparison to other people. And the other issue that is running through this conversation is about the continuation of racism. We can lighten it up and call discrimination, but clearly the racism that have existed in the system right through our first generation from 1948 onwards and continue to be in the system. And it is also the case that many people are leaving the service as a result of the racism. And many people are leaving even education as a result of the racism. And I'm a public governor for one of the second largest NHS trusts in the country. We employ 14,500 people. And I've been with this trust for my third 3-year period. The maximum period you can serve is 9 years. I'm in my 8th year of this period. And what I've been doing with this trust over those many years is to tackle the discrimination that exists in the system at a strategic level. And that is to change the culture and the practices in that institution so that we can improve access to services. And also we can look at how our colleagues are promoted throughout the service, which is still a big issue. And I know it is the case that all of you, the nurses currently on the platform today, can talk about their experience in that area. And the fact of the matter is that that hasn't changed much over 50, 60 years, because that is still the case in 2024. I still get people calling me up and, you know, complaining about what's happening in their trusts in other parts of the country. I have a much wider insight because my elected role is public governor for England and Wales. So I get a chance of really having conversation across the country and comparing what's happening in different regions.
Yes. Thank you very much, Garrett. And thank you, David. I know you've got to leave. So I don't know if you noticed that he had to leave. David leaves. Okay. Well, did you have a question you wanted to put to the nurses? Or you just wanted to update them on where you are?
I think the question is really, it's been asked already, but it's about you know, their experience. They already told us what their experience were. And those who have have come through that system, they're now assisting and supporting other nurses, which is so important because, as I said, it's still the case that they need support even now in 2024.
Well, thank you
Elizabeth,
so much. Yes,
raise
come in, Paulette. Yes.
I'm trying to find the thing and I can't find it.
That's okay.
Just in response to my learned friend there, being on a board, and I'm glad you said that because I'm on 2 boards across UK, and I do work with NHS Confederation as well. One of the things that we've started is a C-code group, because one of the things, as you said, no one person can change the culture and behavior of the NHS. So one of the things I do, separate from other things, is I mentor people to be non-executive directors and to help them to get onto boards. And I have seen, as you said, many of our colleagues who might have been very senior people do not get on boards because sometimes there's a difference about being an exec director and being a non-exec director. And you have to understand that. You're shaking your head. You need to be mentored. You need to understand about check balance and all the rest of stuff. So the C-Call group, which has about nearly 80 or more people on it now across, they started that as well as a collaborative. It doesn't matter where you were from. Once you were Black and minor ethnic, that group was started to support all Black and minor ethnic people to prepare them to be board members. And what we have started since that has happened, there are more filtering of those people now being successful on boards. Because if we're not sitting at the table, and if our voices are not being heard, no matter where you're from, you could be from Jamaica, Antigua, Asia, whatever, it's very mixed. It's about having that group of people sitting there highlighting it. And I know where you're coming from, because sometimes when you sit on boards, you have to keep in the people in place committee. That's where you bring a lot of this in. And we have to keep saying, where's your ED agenda? What is this? Can we see what your res data says? Can we see a little bit more and see a bit more? And sometimes, depends how they see it, they'll let you have it. But it's people like yourself, myself, and some of our colleagues here is encouraging. So I'm encouraging the next generation, because it does take up a lot of time. It's a lot of paper to read. It's a lot of hard work. And you don't do it for the money. You do it because you want to make a difference. So sometimes people don't understand you're doing these things and think, well, you just want to be out there. Because there's not enough of us ready to put our head above the parapet or probably have the time or the knowledge to sit on boards. But we're doing that. So I'm pleased to hear that you're on a board and the difficulty it is. But we have now started to succeed in seeing more of our Black and minor ethnic group. And there is, if anybody on the chat wants to get in touch with me, we have a mentoring scheme for that. And I don't know if you know the C-Call group. Is it Justice from, yeah, forgot your name, sorry. But because if you really want to be an exec director, I think it would be good to get on that group and be mentored, because I think there's lots, this group and some of you could offer, but you need training. You need to be prepared for it.
Well, thank you for that, Paulette. Maybe I can give Liz your details, or you could put it in the chat, because this is on the website. So, you know, you could be contacted. I just want to open up a minute or two to anyone that hasn't spoken that would like to speak. So I'll just ask Lorna Grant, did you want to say anything? If you don't want to say anything, you're not under pressure. And then I'm also want to ask Dahlia Sterling. Did you want to say anything, Dahlia?
Lorna here.
Hello, Lorna.
Sorry, I had to leave the meeting for quite a long time because I had an appointment.
Yes.
So
is that Dahlia speaking now?
No,
is that you speaking, Dahlia, or Lorna?
No, that's me speaking, telling you that sorry, I wouldn't like to speak because I had to leave the meeting for quite a long time.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, so thank you for that then. So Lorna?
Yes, I haven't got anything to say really, but I was very happy that I had to listen to what been said, and you know, congratulations to everyone who's spoken.
Well, thank you very much for joining. And and hope maybe one day you come back because we're here every week, different
All right.
subject.
Okay.
And also, thank you very much. Clover, would you like to say something? This is the chair of the Mary Seacole, Clover Brown. Are you there, Clover? No, maybe she's gone to make a cup of tea. Okay. All right then. Before we bring Liz back in, and if there anybody that wanted to say anything before we bring Liz in, if you can make yourself known now, because I'm going to ask Sherill to close this Nurses Association with that Windrush poem.
Okay.
So was anybody that wanted to say something? This is a conversation.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, oh, David, say it yourself, because you put in a comment, didn't you? In
Yes,
the
I was going to ask Garrett to look in
Your
the
work.
chat. I saw it. I thought David had gone.
No.
Hi, David. Come in, David.
Hi. Well, I just want to say, I mean, the comment I put in the chat basically was everything I heard from the Jamaican nurses resonated so strongly with things I heard from Guyanese nurses, because I think it was during lockdown or at the start of lockdown. I spent some time talking to various Guyanese nurses who I was put in touch with through the Association of Guyanese Nurses and Associated Professionals. And I did a little article about their experiences, and I put the link to that in the chat. The other thing I just wanted to say was, obviously we focus on the Windrush and the period immediately after the Second World War, and the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, and the contribution that nurses made to the NHS during that period. And I regularly say that the NHS would not exist without the contribution of those nurses who came from the Caribbean. But I just want to mention that there were a few Black nurses. We've mentioned Mary Seacole, but there was another Black nurse in Victorian times. One was called Annie Brewster, who I think was originally from St. Vincent. And the second one, who I think I and a couple of others discovered recently, was a lady called Sarah Woodbine. Sarah Woodbine was of Jamaican heritage. I mean, she wasn't actually from Jamaica herself. I think her grandparents moved to Argentina. So rather bizarrely, Sarah Woodbine came to England from Argentina, but she was definitely of Jamaican heritage. So there's a long connection between British nursing, nursing in Britain, and nursing people of Jamaican heritage doing nursing in Britain. And Sarah Woodbine's story is a very interesting one. I'll put a link in that as well when I finish talking, because I think her story was a very interesting one, and as I say, an unusual one, having come to England from Jamaica, from Argentina, rather than from Jamaica itself.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, there was Sarah Adams from Portland and Port Royal, and there was a lady called Grace Dunn. There's quite a few that are unsung heroes, but I just wanted to it's just been brought to my attention that Alina has to leave soon, and Lisa's got to hop off as well. So I just want to, Alina's got to leave in 8 minutes, and we just want to say thank you to everybody that has come today. And if you have to leave, you're welcome to come back when you're free. And I just want you to finish what you were saying, David, because I know you've got to leave as well. Hello, David?
You don't mean me, do you? Because
Yes, David. Yeah. Did you want to finish what you were saying? I just have to acknowledge a couple of the ladies that are going to be leaving now, you see, and thank them.
I'm not planning on leaving it. I'm just going to put the link to the Sarah Woodbine.
Okay, right. So I'll let you put the link, and Rosanna's put her hand up. Okay. So I'll take Rosanna to come in, and then we'll ask Sherill to read the poem. If somebody can get Sherill to unmute. Okay then, Roseanne.
Hiya, Yeah, I'm here. I can hear. I'm just going to ask David if he can make sure he's on mute and off screen, because we're in the same house and the internet connection's not happy at the moment. I've just got to take my hat off, and I've just got to say thank you so much to the nurses for today. And I think the words that I've written down here are: you show true resilience, determination, and you took a pride in what you were doing, and your achievements are a testament to how you were brought up. And I say that with no connection to nursing. My interest here has come from AGNAP, and I realised that if we were to take a straw poll, quite a few of us on this call are actually in Croydon. So, you know, big up Croydon. I'm in Croydon, and recently I've had information from the sickle cell, and somebody's mentioned sickle cell as well. What I just wanted to say is I am here because of somebody called Audrey, what's her name there? Ziggy Alexander and Audrey, who in 1984 highlighted Mary Seacole.
Audrey Dugy.
Thank you. I knew David hadn't gone. We didn't know Audrey in 1984 when I had this book given to me. And then literally in the early 2016 possibly, we met Audrey, and Audrey used to talk about Liz. And then when the lockdown came, that's how I've come to be here. And it's almost as though it's coming full circle. As I said, I'm in Croydon, I'm in touch with people from AGNAP. I hear David waxing lyrically when he interviews the nurses, and I just continue to say your resilience and your determination is exemplary. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Roseanne. That was really appreciated.
June Elizabeth?
Yes.
It's Lorna.
Lorna, yes, Lorna.
Speaking of Sarah Woodbine, I hadn't heard of this lady until recently when I was given a booklet about her, which is very interesting to read. And it's called A Black Nurse in Victorian Britain.
Yeah. Yes.
So I don't know if anyone has...
yeah, a lot of people are now becoming aware of a lot of unsung heroes, especially the Black nurses as well.
Yes.
And David, he's a historian. He didn't really kind of promote himself very much, but he's brilliant at
thank you.
Black history.
I'm glad you liked the book. I was one of the co-authors of that.
Yes.
And I say to everybody on the call, it's available from Amazon for £5, and I'm not making any money at all because any royalties go to NHS charities. So, you know, if anybody's interested in the Sarah Woodbine story, please do buy a book. It's not making me any money at all.
Thank you for that, and thank you, Lorna. Yes, right. So, Sherill, are you ready to come in with your poem? And then we'll hand it back to Liz.
Can you hear?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Well, just quickly before I do the poem, I came to present, but I've learned so much. And I was particularly interested to hear about Kuba Khan Wallace and the other unsung heroes. And I'm just wondering if the historian on this platform could catalog all these heroes, because we need to, it shouldn't be confined to a small group of people. We need to share this very important and interesting history of our unsung heroes of the past.
Right.
Please do allow me to tell the group, to share with the group, and have pen and paper to write before you are sent to the principal's office. Go to Google Grace Kennedy Foundation Lecture 2022. Grace Kennedy Foundation Lecture 2022. Most of what you missed about Jamaica, it's all there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vivian. Thank you very much. Okay, I can't wait till you help me with my dissertation. Okay, right. So, Sherill, that was a very good point that you just made. Yes. Us who joined this Black History conversation, we learn so much every week. Yes, we share and we learn. Because like Rose Johnson, she's a former director of education. She's got a couple of books out, and that's interesting. That's why I said you'd have to come back another time and get to hear everything that's going on. But you can look at the website and you'll get Rose's presentation with the teachers, and you get Rose's presentation on her books. And then Rose recently went to Jamaica and met certain people in Jamaica, some from this platform and some that were introduced to her from this platform. So it is a really a living Black History conversation. Okay, so can I ask you to read the poem? Because I know, Alina, first of all, can we give the two presenters and all the other people that I've introduced, can we give them a quick hand clap, because Alina's got to go now. Let's have a look. Or if she's gone already, but we'll still give her a hand clap. Right, okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so would you be kind now to close us with that wonderful poem written by a Jamaican, a charity worker, a former teacher, civil servant, foster mother, Doreen Mackenzie.
Okay, thank you. This poem is called In Celebration of the Windrush Generation. I hope I can do justice to this because it's the first that I'm laying eyes on it. So I had not read it before to get the feel. So bear with me. The Empire Windrush docked in Tilbury on the 21st June 1948, marking a very important date on which British history was made. Many excited and hopeful pioneers one day later disembarked from the ship, successfully masking their trepidation and fear as they held on firmly to their many grips. Britain called, and they came with willing hands, leaving familiar things and loved ones in their respective islands. They bravely embraced all the challenges they faced and have successfully overcome many with fortitude and grace. They broke down barriers and became trailbearers and history makers, on whose shoulders younger generations can stand. That's the beauty and the essence of their survival story. And as they wrestled with many different situations in a foreign land. A life dedicated to hard work, which they found paid great dividends. And they also demonstrated how complete strangers, some from different islands, could become lifelong friends. So now it's party time. By all means, let us get together and celebrate the fact that our elders unselfishly paved the way, carrying with them an element of hope and an abundance of faith. Their vision was clear and their minds resolute to achieve their ultimate goal by putting down lasting foundations. And this vision today, we faithfully salute. They faced discrimination and hostility from all sides. Keep Britain white, no Irish, no dogs, no coloreds were slogans they had to daily abide. But they never lost their focus. They withstood the many difficult challenges with grit and pride. Life for many was far from easy, but they had to make things work. They were industrious, ambitious, doing jobs no one else wanted, but far from hard work, they never shrieked. House parties, domino tournaments, and frequent coach trips served as a means of relaxation and a chance to connect, as well as a balm from the daily drudgery and hardships. They took every opportunity they got to carve out a reasonable life for themselves. Many successfully hiding from family and loved ones their dire situations and how they truly felt. Working industriously whilst not forgetting those at home, as is evidenced by the many barrels they sent from the little money that they earned. 76 years. Where has the time gone? 5 years in England was the time span most of them had set their hearts upon. But life wasn't easy as they continued to toil, never dreaming that so many years later, they would still be on British soil. 76 years, despite everything, is a wonderful achievement. It is really a milestone which should be marked with much merriment. However, youngsters, please take note that we still have a long way to go and the fight is not done. Until we start to support one another, get equality of opportunity, and until racial profiling is abolished, the battle is not yet won. Members of the Windrush generation have striven hard to leave a lasting legacy. They, through their partner, enabling them to buy houses to give themselves and their descendants some sense of security. So, as we raise a toast to the resilience and inspiration of the pioneers from the Windrush generation, let us with pride capitalize on the legacy they have fought so hard to pass on. Because for 76 years, the people from the Windrush generation have been putting down roots for future generations and are keen to let the youngsters know they have their unconditional love and support and will continue to be their guide as well as their inspiration.
Thank you very, very much, Sherill. That was really spoken as a true poet. Dory will be very pleased when she goes on the website and listens to that. That was, do you not all agree? That's the first time Sherill had the opportunity to look at the poem and she read it beautifully. Thank you very much, Sherill. So I'm going to thank everybody.
Well done, indeed. Well done.
Yeah, thank everybody for being here today. And I'm going to hand you back over to Liz Millman. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
Well, my biggest thank you is to all of you. And Garrett, you maybe want to come in with a last word as well. So I thank you very much indeed. And many, many thanks, June Elizabeth, White-Smith Gully for bringing together so many wonderful colleagues. I've had the opportunity living in Wolverhampton to know a number of nurses who came from the Caribbean, and I know of their stories. And I was a bit sad today. I've not been back for long enough to get back in touch with everybody. But yes, this was just a beautiful session, but also a very meaningful session because you were telling the truths of the difficulties. And sometimes I think we can look at the celebration and the recognition of achievement as success, but also there needs to be an understanding of the challenges and the wonderful way that people got past that. But I heard many many things that really touch my heart today, really touch my heart. Thank you so much to you all. Garrick, shall I pass over to you?
Yeah, just a quick point. Don't forget that the recording is available on YouTube. So tell your friends and colleagues, if you miss a session, you can always go back and listen to the session. So, that is something that we value, which means the information can be shared and discussed at a later date.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed, Garrick. And one of the promises we've made ourselves, because if you can imagine, we've done 140 sessions straight off, one a week. And we really need to take a break in the next few months to get the website re-established so that people can, Google in stories of Jamaican nurses from the Caribbean, or stories of Marcus and Garvey, or whatever we've covered, so that people can actually access them more easily. At the moment, it's a bit shambolic, I have to confess, but we did it. That was the main thing. We cracked talking about Black history with colleagues from around the world. Special thanks sent to Dr. Vivian Crawford for joining us yet again. And Vivian has so many stories of the history in Jamaica, and especially that reference you made to, Vivian, to the wonderful presentation you made for the Grace Kennedy lecture. That was fantastic. Tell us again, Vivian, what it was. Tell us again.
Yes. Thank you, Liz, for your usual generosity of spirit. The title of the lecture was Tangible and Intangible Heritage of Jamaica, So Much to Tell. Tangible and Intangible Heritage of Jamaica, So Much to Tell. And perhaps, Liz, you should ask me, because I am not going to close without letting them know that the founding collection of the British Museum, Dr. Hans Sloane, that came from Jamaica. He lived in Spanish Town and he scoured the St. Catherine Hills. And for Kew Gardens, the orchid from Jamaica is one of the endemic species from Jamaica, found nowhere else on planet Earth, that was sent to Kew Gardens.
Wow.
You should allow me to speak, because I'm not going to give up Croydon.
Well, to all of you from Croydon, those of you from Kingston, I think Ivor's left us from Pennants in Jamaica. Just to say that special thanks to our speakers, Sherill and Alina. It was just really, really lovely that you were able to take a lead on it, and also to manage to present that poem so beautifully. That was really wonderful. We also do links with Clarendon, and we'd love to talk with you some more. I think, Sherill, it's you who've got the link to Clarendon, isn't it?
Proud
Yes.
Clarendonian.
You must join us, because
I will.
we really need to get some stuff done in Clarendon. Next week, we're on the campaign for the fire engine, folks. So we'll be at Rill Fire Station next Friday afternoon. I'm laughing here. We've got to believe that it's going to happen. We'll be at Rill next Friday afternoon, and we'll be talking with colleagues from Jamaica about getting this fire engine. It's been a long time, this plea from the Mayor of Clarendon for a reconditioned fire engine, but now it looks as if we're actually going to make it happen. So we're so excited, but there's lots of other things going on. So Shall I look forward to chatting to you again? And I'm
Definitely.
easier, much easier. So thank you very much indeed, everybody.
Liz, just before you go, tomorrow is Windrush Day, the 22nd, and the raising of the flag.
We made it. We're at the dock.
Yes, tomorrow the 22nd is Windrush Day officially, and many cities will be raising the Windrush flag. We'll be raising the flag in Ipswich tomorrow, and you will also be able to see that afterwards on YouTube, and it should be out and streaming as well. So there is a website for all the events in the UK, which is windrush100.org. So please have a look at windrush100.org, and you will see different cities for all the different events. Please visit the site.
Yes, sorry, can I just bring Sherill in a minute? I'm sure I saw something advertised in Croydon, because I was thinking,
Yes.
oh, I'd like to get there, but I wouldn't be able to get there till late in the afternoon. Then how will I
Yeah.
get back? Because there's no train on Sunday.
Are you going to be in London?
No, I'm doing Northampton, but we
Wow.
finish at 2:30. Then I've got a tea party till about 4.
I think this finishes at 5.
Yes, but have you not got something happening from 5 o'clock?
No. That's happening.
Okay.
It's until from 5. I think it's from 2 till 5 o'clock. But I'll be going to the Maritime Museum in Greenwich because it's an all-day celebration.
Okay, so I
I'm
think
just
you'll
going
be
to
on
say,
the.
Elizabeth, I'm sorry to be interrupting. I need to go and have a look at a car because I need to buy a car so I can get around here. So I'm
Okay,
going
we
to
don't
say
want you to
goodbye
get
to you
locked
all.
out.
Gary,
Yeah.
you switch off, will you please, when
Yes,
everybody's having
yeah,
a good
sure.
old chat.
You
You
go
can
ahead,
just have
Liz.
a
Yeah,
chat
that'll
now,
be
that's
fine.
fine.
Yeah, that'll be
Okay,
fine.
bye
Yeah.
for now then, folks.
Yeah.
Wonderful
Yes,
to
thank
see
you very
all.
much, everyone.
Lovely to meet everybody.
Okay, well,
Bye-bye.
have a safe afternoon. Enjoy the weekend, and we hope to see you next week on this platform. Yes, and every week if you can, because there's always something to be shared and something to learn.
I will definitely, when I
Okay.
have the
And
time,
there's a
and I will
Thursday one.
definitely
There's a
join
Thursday one
the
in
Thursday
Clarendon.
one.
Yes.
Definitely join the Caribbean. Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so keep in
Okay.
touch, and you'll get all the information from June Elizabeth.
Yes, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, everyone.
Have a
Thank you,
good
NAJ.
afternoon. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Now.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, how do I leave now?
That's all right. It'll come off. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just doing the recording, so I will stop it. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.